Let's get this video going. Hi, you've landed at Aquascaping on the Fly Living Art Creations. I'm Anthony, your host and your content creator. On my channel here, I like to infuse my love of spirituality and Mother Nature into every one of my builds. And normally I get inspiration first and foremost with a nature walk. And that is exactly what we're going to be dealing with today, is a new theme called the Rainbow Series. Now, I'm probably going to have to do a whole video on just how I came up with this, because it was truly miraculous how I came up with the entire series. Basically, it's going to be 5 tanks. Even though there's 6 colors in the rainbow, I'm going to do 5. I'm going to do them in a giant X, with the middle one resembling a rhombus. So I kind of explained that in the last video. And I think in the first one too. This is the 3rd video because we're almost now done with the display for the Rainbow Series. And I'm about to show you what I've got done. And so the word of the day, for those of you who used to love to watch Pee Wee Herman, the word of the day today is don't throw anything away. Oh my gosh. Sometimes being a pack rat, I'm just going to say it, sometimes being a pack rat really, really pays off. Now, I've said this on many, many of my videos. I come from a family where we didn't throw anything away. It was so bad that I would have to, when I would visit my parents, after I had moved away from home, I would come in and I would literally have to clean out closets because my mother especially was a pack rat and she loved clothing and shoes and everything else. And I was that child between 5 and 7 years old that my mother used to put in a Goodwill box. The actual box, when they would just leave a Goodwill box out on a corner. She would throw her child in there and have to pick up and let her look at everything that was in the box. Highly illegal. I mean, we were living in Texas at the time. You guys know that we're kind of like sometimes a desert condition in the summer. Can you imagine throwing your child in a box like that? It's enclosed and it's hot like crazy. Anyway, so I try to be just the opposite, but there's things that I just don't throw away. And you see, I can use them later on. It's for a reason. But I've made like 5 trips to the dumpster here in my complex. You would think I'm nesting, except I'm not dating anyone. So it's not like I'm nesting for someone. I guess I'm just nesting for myself. You could nest for yourself, I guess. Anyway, that kind of gets us off topic, but who cares? I like the freedom of saying whatever I want to say. It hopefully will at least amuse you guys, because I'm not one of those videos that tries to tell you the world is all, this is going to be perfect, we're going to have a flawless tank. Oh, far from it. Oh my God. I'm about ready to do an update series, a retrospective on all the tanks. So right now I've got 5 tanks, and they're at all different ages. The water parameters are the same in all of them, though, all of them. But there are different criteria that we can talk about on a separate video. So one of the things that's kind of cool is that this is the first time that I'm going to be able to turn the camera around and I don't have to stop the camera and move stuff out of the way. So you guys will think that, oh my God, he always lives and it's always perfectly clean. No, it's that I got rid of a lot of stuff. And I had this roll around clothing rack. So like before I relocated into this place, I was staying with my sister. And her closets were already full where she was living. So I bought one of those roll around racks to put my clothes on, especially my uniform pieces for work. And so I've had it and I just love it because I put stuff on it when I don't want to use the dryer. And then I've kept stuff from the hobby in it as well. And so I actually literally last night, we have a thing here in my complex. Everyone does it. I do it. You take something out and you put it in front of the dumpster area behind the fence where the fence is that you can't see everything, but you put it out at the dumpster, but not in the dumpster because it's usually good quality and someone's going to want it. And I have found lots of cool stuff, like the 2 tables, like the table right now that you can barely see that Blackfish is on. I found that in the dumpster. There's a table that I'm using for my coffee table. I found that in the dumpster. I found so much stuff that I use. It's amazing. Like my water hose, dumpster. My watering can, dumpster. My 5-gallon bucket that I keep my water in that's treated, dumpster. There's a lot of things I'm really lucky on. I can just find it. So, that part's kind of amazing. But I know you guys aren't really interested in that. You want to see how the build is going. So we're going to turn the camera around. But first, let me get some lighting over there so you can see it and get it off of me because you've seen me long enough. I'm going to say I'm actually pretty proud of how, and I'm going to turn the lighting up really bright so you guys can really get a good look at it. Now, I am 99% done. And that means that, no, it's not completely done. But I'm 99% done. Okay. And I'm going to be lazy. I still want a place to sit, so hang on. And I might need my tea. So here we go. Look at that. Look. I could span around the room. Here you go, here you go, here you go. Okay, so those of you who haven't checked out the build on Desert Oasis in the Firebox, oh my God, that thing is like watching a live nature program. How those plants are, let me zoom in. Okay, there's a Rex begonia in there that is legit in the middle and keeps moving their leaves. They're trying to take over. I had to cut 3 out already because I don't want them to kill the plants that are under them. But that plant is like the dominant species. And now at the same time, the rattlesnake behind it started growing its leaves tall. Now it's laying its leaves flat. And then the prayer plant up at the very, very top, just above them, is starting to like lay all their leaves out. They're getting like one of the most high-powered grow lights out there. And they're still sucking that, energy up. So that is pretty cool. And then you guys get to see how I display my terrariums. There's a bug zapper because, we got gnats. Can't get rid of gnats always. But I've got stuff there. And then here is where I moved blackfish. And now blackfish, I took the backing off of it, and I really like the fact that I can see both sides of the build now. Blackfish was in the spot where the shelving unit is now. So it's kind of like it needed to be moved. And this, I'm loving the rock that's in there because that was from Burleson. That's in Texas here, south of Fort Worth. And I found it with my family. My family, we all did that together as an outing. Well, I made them do it. But they had fun. They said they did. They wouldn't lie to me either. If they hated it, they would have told me. Okay, so I'm going to back up more so you can get the full view of what's going on. Okay, so you can see the tub that's on my bar. Those are plants like Java fern and some booze that I've already attached to driftwood that I want to use in some builds. And I was testing out how well I can do. I'm going to say that right now, one of my favorite plants that I love, of course, I am a booze all day long. I love booze. I think it's amazing. But I'm horrible at gluing. I really am bad at gluing. But I love bobitis now because it looks just like a fern. And I've got a bobitis on some driftwood. I've got booze in there. But in blackfish, I did a supernova Anubias and I think it's called gigantic or giganti or something like that. Anyway, it's huge and I'm loving it now because when I don't have to glue something in there, I'm like all in heaven. Okay, so let's start at the bottom. Now, the shelving, the way it is, oh, I forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. The way the shelving is now. Okay, so in the last video, I had just started the skin. Okay, somebody really wants to talk to me. Just put the skin on because this is all a 2x4 framework for the shelf. And then it's a piece of, I think it's 1 inch by 15 inch wide by 4 feet long hardwood shelf. And I went with that. And this is something I forgot to talk about in the second video. I did the intro to it. I said, hey, I made it easy on myself. And then I completely forgot what I was talking about. That happens all the time because I don't use a script. What I'm talking about is that, okay, I am here by myself. I have a circular saw and I have a 5-gallon bucket. So anytime I want to cut something, it's me putting something on top of the 5-gallon bucket, holding it with my foot. Sometimes I have flip-flops on, which is really dangerous, and I should not be doing that, but I did it. And then I cut it, and it's always, it's not level. That's just notorious because, you can't put your foot on something like a bucket and expect to hold it while you're cutting it. So the 2x4 frames, the lengthwise that you're looking at on each shelf, so that meant the back side of the shelf and the front forward side of the shelf, those were pre-cut. And all I had to cut were the ends and the middle braces. So that was a lot easier on myself. Now, so the board itself, the top piece of board, which is where you see all that blue tape, that was already pre-cut. I didn't have them cut it. It came that size, which is why I used the 2x4 to use. So it's 2x4x4, and then the shelf is 4. So the shelf and the frame fit together perfectly. There was no cutting there. It just had to be the braces in the middle is what I'm trying to say. And the last time I showed it on the video, I just had the shelves themselves clad, and I had the backdrop done on the bottom one and the middle shelf, and the top one was vacant. The top one was vacant for a reason, because I was really nervous going higher than that. Now, I remodeled this room. This outlet that you see at the bottom under that shelf, see that one right there at the very bottom with the shadow on it? That was a dead outlet because this room had no ceiling fan, it had no ceiling lights, there was no way for a television to go over the fireplace because there was no electricity on the fireplace. I don't know how they got away with this. This place was built in the 80s and it didn't have a ceiling fan and it didn't have an outlet by the television. It's just ridiculous. So this one outlet had a switch when you entered into the living room. So I rerouted that line to go to a ceiling fan, a television, and my spotlighting. So I had to run, and this is where I'm going to show you guys, this is how you get creative. You see I used plastic or the vinyl baseboards. Okay, what you can't see, I'm just loving this, that I can just span around and you guys don't get to see anything untowards. Okay, at the end of the sofa, there's an outlet behind like where that corner cushion is, one outlet. What I did is I fished a new electrical line down from there. It had to come back out again on the outside of the sheetrock because of all the, I have 2x6s in the wall, and then the foundation board was even bigger, so I couldn't cut through it. And then it was concrete after that, so I couldn't get it out. I had to have a choice. I had to make a hole. I made a hole as close to the bottom of the floor as I could. And then guess what? In here, my sheetrock does not go all the way to the concrete. It leaves a ½ inch. I ran that electrical line underneath the sheetrock wall in that ½ inch gap, brought it all the way over here, cut a hole where you can't see it, where the vinyl baseboard, they still call it baseboard, and it goes up, and that's where that outlet is. Now, that vinyl I chose for a specific reason, because by the time I started getting into the kitchen remodel, I had just discovered my first aquascaping video. And I don't believe in chance. I know everything happens for a reason. And I became obsessed immediately. And I started my channel within 30 days. And I just went crazy insane with doing videos that I had probably no business doing. So I'm kind of embarrassed about all my early videos, just because I'm like, oh my God, the production was horrible. But you got to learn, okay? You got to learn. So anyway, now my videos are, oh my God, I think my videos are amazing now. I'm just like, oh my God, Cecil D. DeMille Anthony here. So that outlet is being hidden. I went with a thicker cove base that went up higher, So because of the water, we know we might have spill. So the flooring is vinyl, which you can see here. I did it in the herringbone. This is 99 cents a foot at Home Depot. It's the only place that carries it. And it's the only color I like. This is like gray ash. I thought it was a beautiful color. So now when we pop up, it now becomes, the leftovers is the skin basically covering our bespoke display here for the 5 tanks. So what I love about this is we're reusing, we're upcycling everything that we can to save money. So while we're still down here, the chat GPT said, because I was able to put, I had 5 2x6 studs on the back wall where the shelving unit is. So I've got 4-inch screws that connect it directly into the studs. There is a 1-foot gap. And if you can see where that outlet is, between the outlet and the right corner, that's 1 foot, exactly 12 inches. Now, I didn't trust that 12 inches, so I knew I was going to put a 2x4 down there. Now, I'm going to clad the 2x4 in the vinyl, so it will look like furniture. I use these hardwood dowel rods, and I'm leaving them nude. I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm not painting them. I'm not doing anything with it. So I had to cut those, and that was so I made them the cuts a little bit longer, and then they're basically held in by tension. So now the shelves are really indestructible. I debated about putting the backsplash on the side, and then I decided not to, because I wanted it to look like it was one piece just coming down. Now, this wall you're looking at where the shelving is on it, this whole wall right here, let's back up. So the only way I could get my television to have electricity was I needed to put holes in the ceiling to take the wires through. That's why those holes are there. I put lighting up anyway, but I made the holes there so I could fish the wiring through. Now, this was solid mirrors. And if you don't think that was a nightmare for a single person to take down, they were floor to ceiling. And I only broke one. And when I broke it and I felt it breaking, I just ran out. I closed my eyes and ran. I was scared I was going to hurt myself. So I just had a lot of broken glass to pick up. But now you can see, okay, so the dowel rods are in. The electricity is on each shelf. Now I'm going to tell you about the electricity. I know how to do electricity. What I did wrong, though, sometimes when you strip a wire and you push it in the plug-in in the back instead of using the screws on the sides, it messes it up for some reason. I don't know why. I did the easy way. I pushed them all in. They all just connect together. Well, none of them are working, tripping the breaker. I had to take them all back out and then thread them around the screws, and then it was fine. I don't know what's wrong with that. And then I debated for a day to go to the ceiling or not go to the ceiling. And I finally decided to go to the ceiling because if I don't want to put a backdrop on these tanks, I want them all to have the same background. And the hard part is now I have glued down, these are peel and sticks, but you've got to add another adhesive to it or they won't stay. And I explained that thoroughly in the last video. So if you're trying to do something like this and you're trying to get by inexpensively, don't skimp on your glue because it will save you headache. Now, what I want to point out is I just taped the corners where I put the skin around the 2x4. So see right there, the tape you're seeing now, that has a product of me not throwing something else away. Now, my countertops came from IKEA, and they're the fake slate looking. They sent extra trim. So you can see here, see that trim right there? That is this. That is what's on the flat boards. And what I love about it is, maybe not that one so much, but look at this one. It gives the aura of that board is twice as big because I didn't cut this down. I just cut it to size. and then taped it up because I was really impressed with especially the corners, because you can tell on that first shelf, that top shelf, come on, quit moving. That 2x4 brace on the right got wonky. And that happened on every single one of them in a different location, just because I didn't have clamps to clamp this down to like a sawhorse or something, and I was just holding it. So it's not the best way to do it. If you've got better tools, yours is going to turn out looking a lot better than what mine does. I'm happy with it, and I'm happy that we're on budget. Right now, we've only spent $205, and it looks amazing for $205. I mean, if you had to pay someone to build this, you would think, oh my gosh, it's way more expensive. The hard part about the ceiling was that the ceiling's not flat. It was popcorn, and I scraped it when I started doing the remodel. And the corners aren't corners, and you're dealing with a product like the vinyl that likes to be, cut straight and not have to maneuver around bumps. That's one thing you need to pay attention to if you're going to design something like this. Okay, what are the problems I could have? How flat are your walls if you're going to want to cover them up with something? And now I want to cover them up with something because I constantly am spraying down the sphagnum moss that's on the wall where the studio originally started. Now, I want the ability to be able to spray water around this here because I'll have plants growing out of these as well. And I want to be able to, if it gets on it, no big deal. It's vinyl. It's not going to hurt anything. Mine on the other side, where it's just the wall, it leaves watermarks, even though I sealed that wall. I mean, physically, after it was painted, I sealed it. It doesn't work. It's work. It's just a pain in the butt. So you can tell I clad the underside, and you have to put a veneer of something around the 2x4s. You just cannot glue this to the 2x4s. It won't work. It needs to have the stability of the panels next to it all in contact with something. That was one of the hardest things. So I reused panels from the kitchen that don't match what I'm doing here, but since I'm covering up with the vinyl anyway, it didn't matter. Now, the dowel rods, I really and truly wanted them to be black metal legs, but because my shelves are like 17 inches and not 16, I'm in that in-between size. All metal legs go up to 16 inches, and then they start back up again at like 20-something inches. I'm in this gap, this weird gap. So I went with the hardwood round because I thought it looked kind of aesthetically cool, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, leave it with that. But the nice thing about it is when you're dealing with the skin vinyl, as long as you keep the arrows that they put on the packaging as far as the direction that you need to lay out your tile, when you have to cut pieces like this, you can still keep the continuity of your pattern. One thing I do want to point out, okay, so there's only 3 pieces between each one of the shelving units, and then there's like a little thin version one because the way the spacing turned out. So I didn't have to worry about, hey, I still altered the way the cut was. So to give you an example, on this shelf that you're looking at, the backdrop, because that's what you're going to see, you have one full piece from left to right, and you can see where we change around the outlet. And then you have a small piece. Now, I took what was left over of that cut from that small piece, and it became the second row, the middle row. So they're stair-step. They're all stair-step, so they look normal. They're not just lined up looking ridiculous like some people do them on their floor. That just bugs the crap out of me. Up here, though, I had to be really more diligent because I had to make it still appear like there was randomness, so you weren't seeing the same pattern. So what I loved about this is I laid my pattern out to make sure there was no repeat. And I really played around with making sure it blended exactly the way I wanted it to blend. Now, the lighting I'm going to use here, okay, you can kind of, it may be too bright for you, but we're going to do it anyway. You see that one right there on that tub? I have those in black, and I have them where they are on acrylic stands. So I'm only going with 5.5 gallon tanks. So on the top row, it's going to be 2 tanks, and they're going to be separated. They're going to be more to the ends, and the middle's going to be empty. Okay, so think of that. What I'm building is an X. So that's your top row. You're going to have a 5.5 gallon and a 5.5 gallon, but you're probably going to have about at least a good 6 inches or more in the middle empty. I may put something else there, but there won't be a tank there. This shelf is going to have just 1 tank. It's going to be in the middle. Then the bottom shelf will be a repeat of the top shelf. So basically what you're going to envision is if you took 2 triangles, and one that had the point going down and one had the point going up, and those points meet and they overlap just a little bit, just like by a few inches, it creates a diamond pattern in the middle of where the 2 triangles are. So you got 2 triangles coming together, but in the super middle of it, the center where they're joining, it turns into a diamond, and that diamond's called a rhombus. So in my design, my rhombus is my 1 tank in the middle, and that tank is going to be 2 colors. It's going to be yellow and green. So we're talking about probably yellow shrimp, and then do a really, like vibrant green color with it. And from here, this is how it's going to go. It's going to be this row, red. The middle is going to be yellow-green. The right bottom is going to be orange. I'm changing up the colors. We're artists. We can do that. And then over here, this one's going to be blue, crosses over to yellow and green again, crosses over again at the very top, and on the right, that one's going to be violet. Now, the reason why I chose to do this is because I think the red and the violet will be beautiful together, just like the blue and the orange, I think, will be beautiful together. So basically, you're going to be looking at 2 colors per shelf, but you're only going to have 1 tank in the middle. Now, am I going to put more stuff on there? Yes, that is way too much space for me not to have other stuff up there. Most likely, maybe some of my terrariums will go up there with it, but that's the plan right now. And I don't think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So the legs will be done. The dowel rods are going to remain the same. Budget is $205. Now remember, I had originally, the only thing I could come close to finding on Amazon was a $270 stand that was wider than this, because this, of course, if you've been paying attention, is 4 feet. 4 feet is very important because it almost still keeps the sofa centered on the room under the lighting. Yes. I planned all that out, but I didn't know about the rainbow tanks then. But I still want the room to look symmetrical because it just fits my OCD that way. But I think I had wanted also to really utilize the space underneath, and I think that tub that's up here that's got the plants in it, I think I could put that at least maybe on something decorative, and that way keep it under there to where the plants are under there and I get it off of my bar because I use the bar constantly. But for me, I think that really takes care of. If you guys have any questions about this, all the building materials came from Home Depot. I will put in the slide again that I have in there, a text box that showed exactly what everything cost. It would have been a lot cheaper if I didn't have to buy, and I only bought 25 feet of electrical wiring. I got the smallest I could, and the wiring part is what jumped up my price, because you've got to use the remodel boxes, you've got to get new outlets, and I didn't even buy the outlets that I really wanted, the kinds that have the USB plugs in them. Oh my gosh, those are even way, way, way more expensive. And I was contemplating in the beginning to put recessed lighting in the shelves. But the problem with that is I didn't want to have to build a shelf on top of the top piece to put recessed lighting in it. And I didn't want it to compete with the lighting that's already above it, because you can see what would happen. You've got a light right there next to it. And so I really couldn't do that. So I had to switch it up to where I'm going to use lighting that, you can just move away. Now, the only other thing is, should I do the bottom, clad it? I'm not going to, because I'm going to use that for storage down there. I don't think you're going to see it anyway, because when I'm going to be focusing on doing any filming from here, it's going to be like that right there. That way you can see all tanks at the same time. And I hope this answers any kind of questions you have. As soon as the tape is up there now, because I just glued that trim piece on. And what I want to be able to do then, after this is all dried and set up, is start to work on the dojo. And I'll start laying out rocks and potential driftwood for each one of the tanks. And what's cool is I can set them on their shelf where they're going to go. And that way I can kind of stand back and look at it. That's why you already see up here some driftwood up there, because it's taller, because I can go really tall in that one if I want to. So I'm kind of excited about that. Anyway, I hope this helps. Thanks for hanging out. Let's give a shout out to today. Officially, we hit 220 subscribers. So that I'm applauding everyone. I mean, my videos are getting hardly any attention, but I am growing in subscribers. So I really don't get it. But I am on TikTok, Facebook, BLUESKY, and of course the channel on YouTube. And I do a lot of shorts. And I did just go into the channel and put the shorts into different categories that they fit, because I do like to focus a lot on the shrimp that I have. I'm not comfortable with livestock yet, like fish, because I'm not home every day. And I really didn't want to have to get an automatic feeder. I mean, if I have to, I will. But really, I want these tanks to be working well and me not have to worry about it so much. And the shrimp are in there, and they seem to be okay, except for a couple exceptions. And that's why I'm going to do a retrospective to kind of cover something that has just happened that was kind of like sad news for the channel. Anyway, so thank you for your likes. Thank you for your comments. I read all of your comments. I love the comments. I love the excitement that the channel is gathering and garnering online. And if you feel complied, subscribe, because I really want to be a grown-up channel one day. I want to be one of those powerhouse channels where we talk about DIY and we talk about in this hobby where you can, because if you're not familiar, all my rocks, all my hardscape, sometimes my sand comes from Mother Nature. I don't like to buy anything that I don't have to buy, and I get my tanks on clearance. So I can do a build for a fraction of what some other channels will do, and that's why mine are low tech, because I really want to master the area of just having your tanks with planted plants and then having that balance. And so that's my whole goal. My goal is to make this channel for those people out there that love to do their own DIY, like to go out into nature, feel the spiritual connection between Mother Earth and what they're getting. That's kind of how I do it when I'm outside. I get inspiration, and as soon as I see something, I know what I should do with it. I get inspiration immediately. And I love that flows through me. Spirit flows through me like that, through my light. And every one of my tanks has a name for a reason. It just comes to me. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today. I've got a little more cleaning up to do, and then I'm going to relax and have a great day. I hope you guys are having an awesome, awesome day, and I'll see you on the next build. Bye-bye.